Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and on this Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid Villains Breakdown, I'm going to be going over the second major group of villains that came into the Power Rangers universe. You were used to Rita, Zed, and then Rita and Zed, but then they were pushed out of their moon base to make way for a mechanical menace that is the Machine Empire. So before I start, I know that Renegade Games is coming to an end with production lines for Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, which means if you haven't gotten this already, you're probably only going to be able to find it through third-person sellers or something like that in order to add it to your collection should you wish to add this in and you don't have it. However, if you already do have it, then it's still a thing that I want to do. I want to continue doing these breakdowns for all of the sets that I haven't covered yet, because they're a good reference point. They're fun in order to be able to jump in there, kind of just see a little bit of background on the characters and give yourself a bit of a heads up and maybe certain strategies about how to deal with them. So regardless of whatever Renegade is doing in the future with Heroes of the Grid, I am still going to be putting out these breakdowns going forward for all the new stuff coming out, for all, from the Eternal Rangers set, from anything I haven't covered yet and all the other good stuff like that. With regards to this, you really only need 2 sets in order to get all the things you see here. The Cogs, for example, they are your basic foot soldiers from Power Rangers Zeo, and you will be able to find them in the Merciless Minions 1 set. Getting them and the Cyclobots, I believe is what they are, as 2 minions within that set. You get a bunch of minions, you get a bunch of locations, and a lot of fun stuff along that ways. Definitely recommend it in order to build out your minion, numbers and stuff like that. As far as the bigger villains go, you have King Mondo, Louie Kaboom, Princess Archerina, and Prince Gasket. These are all found within Villain Pack number 2 Machine Empire. Yes, Venjix is part of that set too. I will not be covering Venjix within this breakdown. I'm going to save him for something a little bit later. Venjix is kind of his own thing. Yes, he is tied to the Machine Kingdom, but only because that's what Saban decided to do with him, or was that Disney at the time? I can't remember who had the rights of Power Rangers at the point when Forever Red came out, but there was never a character like that within Zeo ever until you saw Forever's Red, so Venjix will just kind of be his own thing a little bit later. That's the only reason he's not part of this lineup right now. We will be able to see that big bad robot a little bit later. If you're new to my villain breakdowns, the way that I do this is I am going to be going over each one of these guys individually, giving you a little bit of a background and story about them. I'll also talk about the breakdowns of their cards, their health, their keywords, and everything like that within each one of their decks respectively. And then we'll go through each one of their specific abilities, and I will rank them from a rank 1 being a low threat all the way up to a rank 5 being a high threat. This is all my opinion about how I see the card and how it interacts not only on its own, but possibly within other cards for the same name. So like Cogs interacting with other Cogs, or King Mondo just doing his thing. Now there will be a lot of crossovers from other sets if you were playing on your own. So a threat level 2 could be a threat level 4 at one point, or a threat level 4 could be a threat level 3. It really is a lot of leeway. I'm just giving them an initial threat level ranking based on how I see them, how I read them, and how they work as a standalone card. Maybe a little bit of influence from within the group itself. With that said, let's see what these maniacal, mechanical, monstrous machines have in store for Earth. Mondo really only wanted to take over the planet because Rita and Zed couldn't, and he knows he's better than them. Let's see what weapons are in his arsenal in order to see if he can succeed. Starting with our foot soldiers. Ready? Let's go. Clockwork minions, the Cogs. Mechanical servants that defend the Machine Empire. The Cogs are not just mindless machines. They have a decent level of intelligence, enabling them to use weapons, drive vehicles, and even communicate using speech and body language. It takes roughly 1 hour to produce 1 cog, equipping the bot with great strength, durability, and the ability to shoot lasers from their eyes. Individually, they are easy to handle, but in big groups, the cogs are a fit tool of war for the Machine Empire. Within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, the Cogs are foot soldier class enemies, meaning that you'll be taking on 1 to 4 of them for each battle. Each one either adding some new attack that the Rangers have to deal with, a passive that will power up all of their allies, or other types of really bad, annoying things that you have to deal with. Every foot soldier has 2 locations tied to them. The first one for the Cogs is the Interstate Highway. For this one, you can have a maximum of 7 characters on this location before it panics. Its ability side is when a ranger moves away from this location, they must discard the top card of their deck. So this is the negative effect of the 2 locations for the Cogs. The next location for the Cogs is Stone Canyon High, which can only have a maximum of 4 enemies on this location before it panics. Its ability on the other side says when a ranger moves away from this location, they may choose 1 card from their discard pile and place it on top of their deck. A healing effect, as opposed to discarding from the last one. This is your positive effect for the 2 locations. Within the Cogs combat deck, you'll find 3 of their cards have 2 health on them and 7 have 3 health. And the keywords break down to 3 of them being blank, 2 of them having the fast keyword, 3 of them having guard, and 2 of them having passive. There are no combos in this, but they do have a lot of different keywords spread among their cards. And I think that's a good thing for the Cogs because they're supposed to be built to be efficient fighting machines, so they kind of cover a wide variety of different effects and attacks and abilities that the Rangers need to, deal with and handle throughout the battles that they're going to face with them. So let's just start off with the first one right here, the Shock Spear, one of the weapons that they carry. They're actually holding them within the figures right there. Not all Cogs carry these. Some do, some don't, but they all have those laser eyes that we're going to talk about a little later. The Shock Spear has 2 health in it. You'll be able to find 3 of these within their deck. This is a drain 2 energy card unless a ranger suffers 3 damage to prevent it. This is a threat level of 2, mainly because of the drain 2. The problem with this is that because there is no keyword on it, if it's being guarded by a guard card, you're going to need to get around it somehow in order to take it out. It only has 2 health, which isn't the worst thing in the world. That's pretty easy in order to knock down with some type of special ability or Zord card or things along that ways. But it's either you're going to take the 2 energy away from your team or a ranger suffers 3 damage. Which is really, again, not that bad. You can say, I'm going to do the 3 damage and then use something in order to reduce that to 0, reduce that down to nothing, or counterattack, or hopefully pull a star defense card or something along that ways. The Cogs came out pretty well, I want to say, maybe almost a year into Heroes of the Grid lifestyle. So there was a lot of cards out there that started to show off different mechanics and everything about how to deal with damage in various ways. So next, we have Tick-Tock Kick. There are 3 of these within their deck. 3 health, guard keyword on all of them. Deal 2 damage. Increase this damage by 1 for each other foot soldier card that has resolved. This is kind of in the middle, as it should be, a threat level of 3. It's not the worst card that they have. It's slightly bad because it depends on where this falls within the lineup. If this pushes all the way down at the end, then you're seeing 3 other cards that have resolved before this goes, which means this is going to do 5 damage to a ranger, which is a significant amount in a sense. That is, a quarter of their health in their deck, which is insane. So I love the mechanic of it because as they click, tick, tock, tick, and then it attacks. It's just a fun way that it's thematically put into the game. It is a 3 health guard card, so you should be able to focus on it pretty quickly. You don't have to worry about it being guarded by anything else. And then if you have some good overflow damage, splash damage, things like that, 3 health should be enough to take this out pretty quickly. Still want to focus on it if it's way far at the end of the line, because then it's going to do a massive amount of damage, or decent amount of damage, I should say, to a single ranger. And if you're in early game, in first first round or whatever, that may not seem so bad. But if you're going up against a boss or a monster or something along that ways, you may want to be able to take this out early to not only unlock more Zords and possibly the Megazord, but not take unnecessary 5 points of damage. Next, we have Disassembly Required. Health 3, there's 2 of these within their deck. This is the passive keyword. While this card is in play, when another foot soldier card would be defeated by damage, all hit tokens are removed from that card and this card is defeated instead. So this doesn't do any damage. This doesn't really do much in the ways of hurting your rangers, but at the same time, it could be a little obnoxious. The way that this works is this is a threat level of 1 simply because of that. Once it's on the field, there's really not much that you could do with it. It'd be even better if there was another foot soldier card on the field that had 2 health, because that bottom part here where it says all hit tokens are removed from that card and this card is defeated. If you defeat a foot soldier card with 2 health, Disassembly Required triggers. Both of those hit tokens move on to this, and then it's immediately defeated. Now, it seems almost kind of like a waste. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's not going to really prevent any future damage for your Rangers. That's why it's best to kind of focus on other things before you really go after this. But at the same time, it could be a quick way to get rid of this from 2 damage instead of doing a full 3, should this be available. Now, there is a way of saying that this is by itself somewhere. You can get rid of it first. This way you don't have to worry about defeating an enemy and then that hit tokens move over and that enemy's still there. It's really just more of that type of annoyance card, which is what the Cogs are. Machines breaking down completely, but then of course other ones building themselves up and putting themselves back together. Last one in their deck are those eye lasers I talked about. The Clockwork Blasters, 3 health, fast keyword, 2 of these within their deck. Drain 1, deal 2 damage, threat level of 3. Again, these cards aren't really so bad in order to deal with, but I hate Drain, and the fact that this is a fast card really means that most likely, if you're just fighting foot soldiers, this is going to hop off before anything else. You're going to lose that 1 energy, and 2 health isn't the worst at all, but it's just still something that just tacks on 1 by 1. And of course, as you saw other cards, the Tick-Tock Kick, well, now that just ticked up to make that stronger. If you decide to go after this, the Assembly Acquire will come after it. So there's a lot of other cards within the Cogs deck that play off of each other, where no matter which one you go after, you got to kind of consider what's more of a threat, how is it going to play off of it, is the Assembly going to absorb all the damage, things along that way. So Clockwork Blast, awesome, very cool card here. If you can get rid of it before it goes off, highly recommend that. Otherwise, do what you can in order to just deal with the 1 damage loss, 1 energy loss, I should say. 2 damage is easy to deal with, and then move on, tearing apart these robots. Robotic beauty with a bow, Princess Archerina. Princess Archerina and Prince Gasket are what some may call star-crossed lovers, falling for each other, then eloping to live their lives away from their feuding parents. Archerina is a loving, doting wife and 100% committed to her husband's rise in power. But if pushed, Archerina is a fierce, ruthless warrior using her energy arrows to both deal damage and manipulate her opponents. 1 shot can make anything she hits fall madly in love with her, making them wide open for a finishing blow, either from her bow that changes into a deadly blade or an energy blast from her hands. This lovely ladybot can send a shock through your system. Archerina is a monster class enemy within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning that you need to defeat 4 of her cards in order to completely knock her out of commission. While she does do a lot of damage on her own and causes some cards to be discarded from Rangers' hands, she does have a few in her deck that play off of Prince Gasket's deck, making the 2 of them a deadly combination. Within Archerina's deck, you will find 5 cards that have 4 health, 2 that have 5, and 1 that has 6 health. And the keywords on her card break down to 3 of them being blank, 3 of them having the guard keyword, and 2 of them passive. It's funny going back through a lot of the footage for Power Rangers Zeo just to get what I need for this episode and seeing how these characters really were throughout the series. And yeah, Archerina, she very rarely fought within it. You know, she did a few times here and there, once in the beginning and once really near the end when she was about to leave the series for good with Gasket. But, you know, it's like she's either there being a super strong frontline fighter or behind her husband like, oh, yes, you did. She's very manipulative in that way. Like there's low-key manipulation to her where she just kind of plays into Gasket's pride and his need to be all strong. Yes, you could do this, husband, absolutely. But knowing full well what she's doing every step of the way. It's really fun to watch. First off, we have here her Heart Strike, which is a 4 health card. You'll be able to find 3 of these within her deck. They each have the guard keyword on them. Deal 4 damage to the Ranger with the most cards in their hand. This is a threat level of 3. Not the worst thing. It's really more or less a 3 because of the 4 damage that this causes, meaning that if you were just to straight take it up, the minimum that you're going to be discarding is 2 cards from your deck, which could be pretty deadly. But again, it's also the Ranger with the most cards in their hand, meaning that if you have a lot of cards in your hand, you've pulled a bunch from your deck already, so your deck has now been a lot thinned out a lot more that way. So just something to keep in mind when you see this pop up on the field and you know that it's probably going to go off because you may want to worry about other cards that are on the field at that time. See which one of your Rangers has the most cards in their hand and then kind of prep yourself from there. Maybe hold off on using a Zord until this strikes off. Maybe somebody waits on using a reaction until this pops off. So this way it goes, and it's not so much you would get a free turn out of it, but you'd be able to prepare for it, reduce the damage, not have to take so much, and then have another great follow-up afterwards. The fact that this is a guard card also really helps because you can just hit it. You don't have to worry about it guarding anything else, take it out of the fight, and then not have to worry about reducing anything. Just moving on and working your way towards your Zord. Next, we have Lover's Shot. 2 of these within her deck, 4 health each. This is a passive keyword. While this card is in play, each time a ranger deals damage to an enemy card with the fast or guard keyword, they must discard the top card of their deck. This is a threat level of 4, simply because, as you've been seeing just with the Cogs and this, and even other monsters and bosses within this particular set, there's going to be a lot of cards there that have the both guard and fast keyword. And even they may not have them together, they may be separate, but every time you attack anything or deal damage, right? Deal damage. Anytime you deal damage to one of those cards, you have to discard something from your deck. So ideally, you want to go after this. This will not cause that to trigger because this is a passive. It would have been nasty if they made this guard passive fast. You know, like it's fast, it's guarded, you have to hit it, and then you're already going to start losing cards that way. That would have been nasty. But yeah, so just keep that in mind with this. If it triggers, it doesn't do anything. It's like, you know, all right, pop, we can do something else now, almost giving 2 Rangers turns in a row. But always keep in mind that whenever you hit something with fast and guard, going to be a lot of those on the field, I bet, you're going to have to start discarding cards from the top of your deck. As you can see, it's kind of like her main shtick. Getting rid of your will to fight, so this way she can basically take you down. Next, we have her Enchanting Arrow. 2 of these in her deck, health of 5, no keywords, so this is blank. 1 ranger must discard all attack cards from their hand. If they discard fewer than 2 cards, deal 4 damage to that ranger. This is a threat level of 5 because this really shows just how powerful Archerina can be. This is tough. Like if this is guarded on all different sides and everything, there's going to be very hard to get 5 damage into this without needing to take care of any one of the guards prior to that. That and just the effect is awful. Discarding cards, it's not even discarding random cards. If it's an attack, which of course is the main damage dealing ways that all rangers have in the game in order just to do stuff, you have to discard it from your hand. And if you discard, what was that, fewer than 2, you immediately take 2 damage. So if you had 1 attack card in your hand, it's gone, and now you've taken 4 damage. This is rough. This is a rough card to deal with. And if you can get rid of this as soon as possible, that would be ideal for the Rangers. Even if you want to, maybe manipulate this to who's going to do 1 ranger. So it can be anybody. Pick a ranger that has the least amount of attacks, dump it, and then everyone else can kind of reaction onto that in order to reduce the damage. That's a possibility as well, but I don't know. This one's rough. And again, it just shows how strong she really is, especially from a distance. And finally, we have Lover's Barrage. Only 1 of these within her deck, 6 health, no keywords on it. Deal 2 damage to each ranger. Then, if any Prince Gasket or Princess Archerina cards have been defeated or discarded, deal 3 damage to each ranger. Basically, the way that this works is Prince Gasket actually has this card in his deck as well, which is really cool. I love how the 2 of them always were together. They always work together to like push Gasket forward, really, but Archerina's always there in order to help him out and whatnot. I love that each of them play off of each other's deck that way. So if any Prince Gasket card has been defeated, that means you've defeated it, it's gone out of the game, flipped over to its other side and whatever. Like, it's just a way of tacking on an additional point of damage where one comes in, does an attack, and here comes the other one doing another attack. Just 1-2 shot. Love it. It's really cool. Very awesome mechanic between the 2 of them. They weren't the ones that introduced 2 monster fights, but I think they were the ones that really took it to the next level. I believe Squat and Babu were the ones that introduced 2 monsters coming out at the same time. But with Prince Gasket and Princess Archerina, they know how to work together. They know how to bring the hurt to the Power Rangers. Heir to the Machine Empire, Prince Gasket. First built son to King Mondo and Queen Machina, Prince Gasket's main goal in life is to be king of the Machine Empire. Extremely arrogant, power-hungry, and charismatic, Gasket was the one that had the plan to brainwash Tommy into thinking he was the king of the Empire and use him to destroy the other Rangers. In the end, like his father, plan after plan failed, and the ultimate fates of Prince Gasket and Princess Archerina to this day are unknown, as during the last battle, they lost their fight against the Rangers and just vanished into the universe. I'd like to think that they're off living their best lives together, drinking oil mojitos, and planning for the day that Gasket is finally king. Prince Gasket is a monster class enemy within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning you need to defeat 4 of his cards in order to be able to permanently get rid of him. His cards, he has a lot of fast cards, so he will be up in front very often with a lot of his attacks, dealing a decent amount of damage to the Rangers. He also does have that Lover's Barrage card as well, so watch that if you're playing with him and Princess Archerina together. Within Prince Gasket's deck, you'll find 5 cards with 4 health, 2 with 5, and 1 6 health card. And he breaks down to having 1 card that's blank, 3 have the fast keyword, and 4 of them are combos, 2 being guard passive and 2 being fast guard. A fast fencer that Gasket is, and you gotta watch out for him when he comes at you with his blade, because if you blink, he's gonna take you down. First we have with a disarming slash right here. There are 3 of these within his deck, 4 health apiece, fast keyword, so he's gonna be right to the front as I mentioned before. The Ranger with the most cards in their hand must place 1 random card from their hand on top of their deck, then deal 4 damage to that Ranger. Very interesting way that this card works, because on one hand, you're giving that Ranger a little bit extra health, whatever it is. Like say you have like a bunch of 3 shield cards in your hand. Yes, those are usually your more powerful cards because they have the 3 shields, but at the same time, he puts it on your deck and then flips it over and boom. It's fun because it's like you are getting disarmed. He's taking a weapon from your hand, you drop it and you're going to immediately lose it, because no matter what it is you throw down, it's 4 damage. It's going to be gone, and then you're going to be losing whatever the next card is as well. So very interesting, like going up against Gasket like this, because he's giving you a little bit of a chance to stay in the game by just throwing something down. But because it's a random card, you don't know what it is that you're going to be losing. Be careful with planning against Gasket, because a card like this could ruin your plan so fast as he's like, nope, pop, you don't have that anymore, on guard. Jumping the gun with that call a little bit, we have on guard right here. 4 health card, there are 2 of these within his deck. Both of these are fast guard keyworded cards. Deal 4 damage. Very simple like that. I threw it on the screen in the last one. The last one was a threat level of 3. On guard is a threat level of 2, mainly because there's really not much you're going to be able to do in order to get rid of it. The guard keyword on it makes it kind of annoying to have to deal with. Like, you know it's going to the front, you know it's going to trigger, you know it's just going to move on anyway, should this be one of the last cards you deal down. But out of the 2 fast cards that are out, on guard is probably the least threatening out of the 2, because again, the other one, you're just losing cards from your hand left and right. Here, you can plan a little bit better in terms of how you're going to be able to deal that 4 damage and get rid of it, and then of course, absorb that 4 damage coming in from this attack. It's really not that bad. It's really like not the worst. Some of these, this next one's actually way worse than this card by far. 4 damage should be, as professional Rangers, should be able to handle that no problem. Here we have his duelist stance, really leaning into that swordplay of him and everything. A 5 health card, there are 2 of these within his deck. Guard passive keywords on them. While this card is in play, each time a Ranger deals damage to this card, they must discard the top card of their deck. Now, the thing you gotta keep in mind is if you are playing dual monsters, which would be 2 monsters come out at the same time, you draw 2 cards from one monster, you draw 2 cards from the other monster, you have to defeat 2 cards from each one in order to win, so it's still just one fight together. Duelist stance works well with Archerinas, where if you do any damage to a guard or fast keyword card, then you have to remove the top card from your deck. Heck, everything we've had so far with Gasket has either fast or guard on it already, or both, but you only have to do one of those cards. It's not for each one. So Duelist Stance comes out. It has the guard keyword. You're going to deal damage to it, so you're going to discard a card that way. And then if Archerina's card is out, you have to discard another card. So as you can see, the 2 of them together play off of each other so well that the more of their cards that are on the field, the harder it is for the Rangers to really go at them. I would love to do a custom game one day where I just have 4 and 4 of each of them and really see what they're like at their fullest power. That could be like a boss battle in their own right that way. Last card in his deck, the Lover's Barrage. We saw this with Princess Archerina, and here it is for him as well. 6 health, no keywords, only one of these within the deck. Threat level of 3, might as well get that out of the way now because I've been forgetting it for this guy. Deal 2 damage to each Ranger, and then if any Prince Gasket or Princess Archerina cards have been defeated or discarded, deal 3 damage to each Ranger. And again, that's not per card that's been like discarded or defeated. It's just if any have had that happen, then it's an additional 3 damage on top of that to each ranger. So then each ranger would be 2 damage, and then another 3 damage on top of that for 5 damage in total. 2 separate instances of attacking, keep that in mind as well. I think I mentioned 5 damage a few times when I talked about this with Archerina. Technically, yes, you're taking 5 damage, but you're taking a 2 damage hit, and then you're taking a 3 damage hit. So there are possibilities that cards could get flipped to the bottom of your deck. So keep that in mind should you be fighting them by themselves or together. I highly always recommend fighting these guys together because I feel like that's just how they naturally are, and their decks work better that way. Very nice. I love it. The bomb with the Brooklyn accent, Louie Kaboom. In an attempt to overthrow the Machine Empire, Rita and Zed sent Louie Kaboom to take control after Mondo's first destruction. They're machines. They get rebuilt. He'll be back. Due to the blundering of Rito and Goldar, let's face it, mostly Rito, Louie's controller was lost and he went rogue. Nearly indestructible, Louie is an obnoxious, greedy, egomaniac bot who consistently tries to hit on Queen Machina. He did end up rewiring himself so that once the remote was finally found, it didn't work. Thinking he was going to be able to take control of the entire Machine Empire, his ultimate undoing came to him when he hit on the wrong person, Princess Archerina. That choice made Louie go kaboom for the final time. Within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, Louie Kaboom is a boss-type enemy, meaning you have to defeat 6 of his cards in order to win the game. That means you'll have to fight this crazy warhead twice in order to fully defeat him. Within Louie's deck, you'll find 2 4-health cards, 3 5-health cards, and 3 6-health cards. And his keyword breakdowns are 2 of them are blank, 3 are fast, 2 are guard, and 1 is passive. No combos for Louie. I vaguely remembered Louie when I was actually doing my research for this and everything. He wasn't in it very much. He was really only in it for about 5 episodes when Princess Archerina and Prince Gasket finally came into the picture to try to take over the Machine Empire after King Mondo was defeated the first time. Trust me, that's really not that much of a spoiler. It happens like around halfway point of Zeo, but you know, Mondo comes, they're machines. He just gets rebuilt. In fact, Machine says multiple times that, oh, your father's being rebuilt, my son. Don't worry, he'll be back soon, or whatever accent they use. In any case, speaking of weird accents, Louie got this very interesting choice of voice in that, and that made him an interesting character to follow and watch. First off, we have Bombardment. 2 of these within Louie's deck, 4 health. Each of these have the guard keyword. Deal 3 damage to each ranger. Threat level of 3. He's going to have a very mediocre deck in terms of, like, boss-wise. I don't want to say he's an easy boss, because bosses aren't made to be easy. There's a lot of, like, really tough cards that you have to watch out for with Louie. But a lot of his cards can be kind of dealt with pretty standardly in terms of like all other monsters and bosses out there. 3 damage to each ranger. 3 is a standard number that you can either get a pretty good reduction on, or you don't have to worry about losing too many cards if you've stacked your deck using ranger abilities, or if you're ready for some type of star defense. Like, it's really, it's almost like bring it on. Bring it on, Louie. Hit me with whatever you got. It's just annoying that it's a guard ability, so it's going to be guarding other things that you really should have higher priority to, so you got to defeat it. And of course, being a boss card, 4 health is a standard point as well. Very rarely will you ever find a boss that has a card that has less than 4 health to it. Some of them get really high, but we won't see that until the next character. Next, we have the Bunker Buster, 5 health, no keyword, 2 of these within his deck. Each ranger must discard the top and bottom card of their deck. Again, threat level 3, yes, discarding cards is annoying. And what's worse about this is like, this isn't damage. So you can't use any type of reduction. You can't use any type of ability to stop it or negate it or whatever. But there's just other cards within his deck that are worse. If you're going to lose the top and bottom card, you again can work towards it. Think about recharging. Think about any cards that you have that put cards back on your deck or on the side or things along that way. Zords that do those abilities. Like, yes, it's bad. You're losing 2 cards no matter what. But there is a sense that you can kind of adjust your deck in a way that losing them isn't going to be the worst thing in the world. It could end up helping you in the long run anyway. Being that this doesn't have any guards on it, then you're going to have to get around other cards if you really want to take it out sooner than later. It depends on what your rangers are. Because if you have a ranger who has only 3 or 2, if you have a ranger who only has 2 cards in their deck, this immediately KOs them. So that would kind of bring the threat level up to a 5 as compared to a 3, but I'm going to leave it at a 3 anyway, because it's like, it can be avoided, it can be dealt with, but in certain situations, it can be deadly. Next, we have Warhead. 5 health, passive keyword, only one of these in his deck. This card cannot be dealt damage until all other Louie Kaboom cards in this battle have been defeated. Deals 6 damage to each ranger at the end of this battle. Sounds bad, sounds scary, sounds like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? This is a threat level of 2, my friends. Yes, 6 damage to each ranger is bad. That is an awful thing in order to deal with. That is a character killer right there. It's the fact that it's at the end of this battle. If you're fighting Louie and there are other foot soldiers on the field, that gives you extra time in order to do whatever else it says on the card and go from there. You have to defeat all the other Louie bombs. So Louie bomb. Well, there are some bombs. There's a lot of bombs. Louie, he's a big bomb. He's a giant bomb. 3 other Louie cards on the field before you can even start hitting this thing. 5 health for a boss is average, so that's not so bad. You're going to want to hit all the other ones first. And when this triggers, it gives the Rangers a free turn already. It doesn't do anything until the very end of the battle. And remember, even if the fast keyword is in play, the Rangers will always get that last turn. So no matter what, you're going to have a bunch of turns. Even if this is all the way at the end of Louie's turn, you will have ways in order to be able to use your cards, use your Ranger abilities and everything to disarm Louie, get rid of all of his cards before this even comes close to triggering. That's why I just ignore this on there. I prefer this being out early, so this way you can take care of it, you can get rid of it, and it just gives you to me, it gives you an extra turn in order to get rid of the worst cards that Louie has, like the next 2 we're going to look at. That first one being Explosive Entrance. There are 2 of these cards within his deck, 6 health apiece, fast keywords, so these are going right to the front and doing their thing. Roll 1 die and deal 3 times that much damage to each ranger. This is a tough one. I'm going to put this at a threat level of 3. If you can get rid of this before it triggers, I would highly recommend that, because you got 3 different options in terms of what each ranger takes in damage. 6 if you roll a double hit, which of course you're rolling for the enemy, you're going to roll that double hit. 3 if you only roll a single hit, because it's 1 times 3 is 3, so that's standard, but again, everybody takes that. Or 0. There is a possibility that you will do no damage to your Rangers by rolling a miss on the die. 0 times 3 is still 0. He is a dud. It doesn't explode. He doesn't go off. That is seriously best case scenario. And if that's what happens, then consider yourself lucky. This goes to the front. It's going to immediately trigger because it's fast. And then boom, no damage. 0 damage. It's like, all right, good. Let's just move on. Final card of Louie, we have Shock and Awe. Only one of these within his deck. A 6 health fast keyword card. Deal 3 damage to each ranger. Skip the next ranger turn in battle. This is your threat level of 5. And what stinks is that if it's the last card you draw, it's going to go up to the front of the line and activate already. So now you have missed the first 2 turns in battle. This is like his ultimate thing right there in order to make sure that if Warhead is on the field, then it just less turns for the Rangers in order to be able to do something. 3 damage to each Ranger, like a lot of his other cards, is not that bad. It's manageable. It can be taken out, no problem. But if this is anywhere else on the lineup, I would try to take this out as soon as possible. Skipping a Ranger turn in battle is detrimental because you just lose momentum that way. If you have great rolls and you have great strategy and everyone's playing their cards awesome, perfect. If an enemy gets 2 turns in a row, it can really kind of mess up the mojo and the flow of battle. And not going to say you're going to lose, but it could really make things a little bit more difficult for your team for the rest of the fight. So if you can get rid of it, I highly recommend doing that. If not, again, 3 damage for each Ranger isn't so bad. It's that skipping of the turn that's really going to take you down. Take a breath, take a breather, regroup, retaliate, send this Warhead packing as the as the dud that he is. Ruler of the Machine Empire, King Mondo. Ruler of the Machine Empire, patriarch to the royal house of Gadgetry, husband to Queen Machina, father to elder son Gasket, and youngest son Sprocket. King Mondo rules his empire with a metallic fist. And impressive boxing skills to boot. Cruel, calculated, cunning, Mondo seeks to spread his reign across the galaxy, with his next target being Earth. Even being destroyed isn't enough to keep this overlord at bay, as there is always the chance that King Mondo will be rebuilt again, stronger and more deadly than before. This king is never afraid to get his hands dirty, so you better be more than ready to go up against this fearsome royal robot. King Mondo is a boss class enemy within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning that in order to disassemble him permanently and win the game, you'll need to defeat 6 of his cards, requiring 2 different battles in order to do so. King Mondo has a lot of splash damage cards within his deck, so be prepared for all your Rangers to take damage every time he attacks. Within King Mondo's deck, you will find 2 cards with 4 health, 2 with 5, 3 with 6, and 1 10 health card. That one you got to be careful of. And the keywords on those cards are 4 of them having fast, 3 of them are guard, and 1 is a combo keyword of fast passive. Yeah, Mondo has a 10 health card within his deck. It's going to be the last one we looked at, but I think that is the most health card I've personally ever seen, at least I can remember off the top of my head. Do you guys know one that has more health than that? Let me know down in the description below. But yeah, that's up there in terms of that's something you're going to have to deal with. But before we get into that, we have the Imperial Fist. Again, he's a really good hand-to-hand fighter, and he's a good weapon master too. Mondo is just overall like a well-rounded fighter as well as a leader. Great new addition and new enemy for the Rangers to go up against. 2 of these are within his deck, 4 health, fast keywords, deal 4 damage. The Ranger who suffers this damage must discard 1 random card from their hand. This is a threat level of 3 only because you're probably not going to be able to do anything about this should this come out. He has 4 fast cards. 2 of them are right here. So if any of the other fast cards come out, then yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it. But there are other cards that you will possibly see with Mondo that require more attention than this one. 4 damage. All right, it's not that great. You know, you're gonna have to minimum of 2 cards in anything, and then discarding 1 random card from your hand is usually a bad thing because you have that 1 card, and you know for a fact that if it's random, that's going to be the card you discard, but there's always a chance it's not, and there's always a chance that you'll be able to reduce the damage for this attack or do some type of retaliation and things along that way. So there are worse cards in Mondo's deck that you have to worry about as compared to Imperial Fist. And again, because it's fast, it's probably just going to pop off anyway. So let it go, let it activate, deal with everything else, and then come back and deal with this later. His other fast card, the Tyrant Barrage, 5 health, fast keyword, 2 of these in his deck. Deal 2 damage to each Ranger twice, also a level 3 threat for the pretty much the same reason as Imperial Fist, in that if it kicks off, you're going to have to deal with it anyway. What makes this a little bit worse than Imperial Fist is that it's each Ranger, and everyone takes 2 instances of 2 damage. Now, there is a way that Rangers can easily manipulate that by putting 2 3 shield cards on top of their deck prior to that, using abilities or any type of things like that. You're going to see that it's coming. You're going to see that it's going to be something that pops off. Use Zords, use abilities, use reactions in order to set yourself up, and then you'll end up not taking any damage from this at all should you set yourself up along that ways. But again, it's 2 instances of 2 damage. So it's not 4 damage at once, it's 2 and 2 to everybody. So, I said it's a level 3. I'm actually going to bump it up to level 4 simply because it goes to everybody. It's not like an Imperial Fist where it's 1 Ranger twice. It's every Ranger for 2 damage. And that's worse than what the other one is. And if you can manage to get rid of this before it pops off, probably a good idea. And next we have his Thunder Wave. Again, he has a lot of cards that hits all the Rangers in a battle. So keep that in mind when fighting him. 6 health, guard keyword, deal 4 damage to each Ranger. Basically, it's Tyrant's Barrage, but instead of 2 damage, it's a single shot now of 4 damage to each Ranger. Also a threat level of 4. So I'm going to leave this in the same threat level as the other one. I'd almost even say that this is a higher one than the Tyrant's Barrage, because you'll be able to take this one down without much trouble because it is a guard card. Guards can't guard guards, so you're able to lay on this with whatever. If you have somebody that does splash damage after hitting something with a guard, that's amazing. Something that gets around guard is also really good if you want to do it. But this is definitely one that you want to get rid of as soon as possible, just like the Tyrant's Barrage, because it's a decent amount of damage coming at each Ranger. It's not that you can pick a Ranger to take the damage. They can be your tank and absorb it all. Everybody is getting hit by all of these attacks that Mondo is doing, and it is devastating the amount of damage that this guy can output. He's an awesome character, both in the show and in the game, because it really shows his strength, his power, and his dominance in the field as both a general leader for the Machine Empire, but as a warrior as well. Speaking of the Machine Empire, I love this card. I love the image on this card with the Machine Empire and everything. So awesome. Machine King. There's only one of these within his deck. Health of 6, fast passive. While this card is in play, each time a ranger rolls dice for an attack, remove 1 die from that attack before rolling and place 1 hit token on this card. Threat level of 5 right there, because this is nerfing each one of your attacks. Every time you roll, before you roll, by the way, this isn't after you roll. This is when it rolls a dice for an attack, remove dice from that attack before rolling. So if you have a 3 dice attack, it's now a 2 dice attack. If you have a 4 dice attack, it's a 3. I believe that I don't know if this was errata. Guys, let me know down in the comment section if this was ever an FAQ or anything like that. But if you have a 1 dice attack, is that now a 0 dice attack? I believe it should still be minimum 1 dice rolling no matter what. But it doesn't say it on the card, and I offhand don't know if an FAQ or something like that was put out in order to kind of inform us that, minimum 1. You will always at least be rolling 1 dice. But man, that is crazy. And then after you're done and after the attack is finalized, you would put 1 damage on it. So it's corroding itself. It's doing a lot of damage or doing a lot of hindering to your rangers, but it's making itself weaker and weaker and weaker. Nice to go after this, because that means you really just need to do 5 damage to this thing for it to defeat itself, but something you want to get rid of as soon as you can, because losing dice is just as bad, if not worse, than losing cards. Oh boy, here it is, the Sword of Damocles, 10 health, guard keyword. At least there's only one of these, because there's only 1 sword in the universe for this. Deal 10 damage to each ranger. Reduce that damage by 1 for each hit token on this card. So you're fighting the sword. You're attacking the sword. He's blocking with the sword, and the sword is slowly but surely wearing itself down. That's why each hit on it is reducing its damage. Man, if this is a guard keyword, which is great. So you want to really, this is a threat level of 5, by the way, if you didn't understand that already. You want to get rid of this as soon as possible. 10 damage to each ranger is half their deck at minimum. You may get more depending on what you flipped over and everything, but my goodness, that is insane. And you just hit it as much as you can, deal as much damage to it as possible. If it gets down to maybe only dealing like 2 or 1 or 2 damage to each ranger, maybe then hold off on it and like fight other things and just kind of leave it. But while it's there, keep in mind, 10 health, 10 damage, reduce that while you can, or else Mondo's going to come in swinging and destroy every single one of your team. No coming back from the Sword of Damocles. My goodness. I believe it still exists within the world too, if I'm not mistaken. It was like shown at the end of In Space, just stuck in the ground somewhere. Weird how lore works that way. And there you have it, everybody. The Machine Empire, as they appear in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. Now, currently in the Eternal Rangers Kickstarter, which is happening right now as I'm recording this, I really highly doubt we'll see Queen Machina show up at all as a villain, but at least we know that going forward, because of the way Eternal Rangers is, maybe we'll make our own. Maybe we'll make our own Queen Machina and Prince Sprocket, and then just really add them in to make a full-on Machine Empire for ourselves, to give Zeo a full run through of everything possible. But regardless of anything, guys, let me know what you think of these down in the comment section below. Have you gone up against the Cogs or any one of like the monsters, Archerina or Gasket? Have you fought Louie Kaboom or King Mondo? And just generally speaking, what were your experiences? Did you like them? Did you like the way they played? Were you able to successfully defeat them? Or were they just a really hard, grueling mess in order to deal with? I fought Louie Kaboom before, and he's, again, really not that hard. I actually enjoy going up against him as a boss. I've only fought Mondo once. I lost him because he just spread damage like crazy against all of my rangers. I couldn't do anything about it, but he is a tough cookie for sure. And of course, I fought the Cogs a few times, and then these two over here I've fought occasionally. And as I mentioned in the video, it's really best to fight them together as opposed to separate, just because they work so well together, as they did actually in the show. As mentioned before, in order to be able to find these products, in order to add them to your collection, you're probably going to have to go more third party at this point, Amazon or any other like online shoppers, friendly local game stores if they still have them in stock. Renegade has stopped production on these, so I don't exactly know what the future of the actual products for these are, but if you don't have these in your collection, you're looking to pick them up, I do highly recommend them, especially if you want more foot soldiers to get that merciless minions. And then if you're a fan of Zeo as a series, go for, these guys right here, all in one box, all together, along with Venjix as well, which, once again, I will be covering at a later date. So, in order not to miss that or any other Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid action I put out, or any other fun game I do for your enjoyment, because I have a lot of things coming in the future that I want to play. Besides just Power Rangers, I want to cover a whole bunch of different things as well. I know you guys have been asking for a few different series and a few other things that are be coming out. I may actually dive into Power Rangers, the deck builder. I have them. I have it. I just never really got into it. Maybe that'll change now that Heroes of the Grid is ending. And while I still do these episodes in order to catch up with it, maybe shift myself forward to something else. Who knows? But in order to do that, you make sure that you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad so you don't miss any of that. In order to help the channel out, support it even further, there are ways to do that down in the description section below. Members and Patreon supporters will get these videos early, along with a bunch of other perks that I've been working out through and everything. In addition to that, the affiliate links will be down there. I don't really know how long they're going to be active, if at all, but at the very least, you can go and check them out. Maybe get a little bit more information off of the Renegade website, should they still be on the website. Who knows how long from now, but regardless of anything, as always, your view, your like, sharing this video, commenting, and of course, subscribing to the channel go a long way to helping Home Gamer Dad grow. Again, I'm still going to do Heroes of the Grid stuff. I'm still going to put out these videos because it's what I do and it's what I love, and I love this so much. And because of us, this game will live on for eternity. Thank you all once again. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together. The Machine Empire actually has a really solid family unit, and I respect them greatly for it, even if they're trying to enslave the entire planet. Take some, give with some. That's family for you. Till next time, you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.